guys. Welcome back. How are you doing? This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. We are here to challenge and transform your thinking. And so today I have Bobbie Caskey here, and she is a life coach, and she helps people break out of their rut so that they can create meaningful change using her proven 4-step process. And so I really wanted to have her here because, as you guys know, I always try to search the planet for the best people on it, get them on here so that we can help challenge and transform your thinking, so you understand that you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to repeat last year. There is a way forward. And that's why I love having these conversations. So Bobbie, thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, Neena.
I'm so glad you're here. I have an amazing community. And, you know, the people that follow are amazing. They email me all the time about the guest and about what they got out of it and all that great stuff. So why don't we start where I always start, with the very small question of, who is Bobbie Caskey?
A small little question.
It's a little question. Who are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, it's an honor to be here, Neena. I love your work and what you're doing in the world. And so I think what I'm about, not to sound cliche, but is really my whole goal in my life has always been to live authentically, to live a life that feels like me. And I've definitely, it's been a rocky road to get to where I am now, which is doing something I love and having kind of quieting my inner critic, feeling peaceful, not, waiting for the world to change or other people to change, and just being happy with who I am and where I am. So it's been a journey. And what my passion is really, like, who I usually work with, Neena, it's usually women that are high achievers, but they've maybe always felt like a little bit of an outsider. They might be introverted, and they might be getting to a place in their life where they feel like they want to make a change. They feel like their life isn't authentic. Like the way they'll explain it to me is, my life looks amazing on paper. Look, you saw me on paper, like I've checked all the boxes, but I just don't feel connected to my life anymore. I don't feel like it's really me. And so I take them through sort of the process that I've been through with that. So
that's great. No, that's really, really great. And, and that's, I think I'm finding a lot of that too, though, Bobbie, right? A lot of people are feeling that right now. I don't know if it's because of the world shutting down the way it did and making pause and reflect. I was just literally having this conversation today with someone who was saying, I think everybody's trying to find what they are really passionate about, what they really want to do, as opposed to your 9 to 5, right? So tell me a little bit about that. Before you started doing all this coaching, you did go through a journey. So let's talk about your journey a little bit. Was this something like through like the type of work that you were doing, or something that got you to where you are? Or what was this journey?
Okay, sure. Well, it goes all the way back, like it always does,
right.
To being a child in my family. I had this wonderful, beautiful family, but always kind of feeling like a little bit of an outsider. I always had just a different perspective on things. I was just different than my family of origin. And I think when that happens, you try to, at least I did, like just even try harder to be a pleaser in some ways, and harder to be the good girl and achieve and be perfect and all of those things. So I really, for a long time, just didn't understand why I was different, like why I couldn't, why I saw things differently. And I had a lot of internal struggle with that. And so that, plus my temperament, which is so important to know, is I'm also an introvert. I'm highly sensitive. I can't, handle everything. I can't go, 8 a.m. to midnight without stopping. And so really what my journey was getting to a place where I had done the same thing that my clients have done, where I had checked all the boxes. I had, you know, gotten married. I had a really like high performance job. It was high paying. It was very demanding. I had 2 kids, a dog. I mean, the whole thing. Right.
Right. Wow. It's like exactly
Right.
like tick, 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 tick. Right.
Yeah. And so like what happened for me is I just reached a breaking point a few years ago because I really hadn't resolved all those things I told you about, just always kind of feeling a little bit on the outside and why was that? I hadn't resolved that. And I was living a life that didn't fit my temperament, my essential self. It was, you know, just constantly going until two things happened. One, I had all this emotional baggage, you know, and grudges that I hadn't worked through. And also I was becoming physically exhausted and sick all the time and just run down. And honestly, my relationships with my kids was suffering. I just couldn't handle my life. And the third thing that was happening was I really was starting to get that nudge, that inner nudge of like, this isn't really everything you're supposed to be doing. There's something else, you know, kind of what you spoke to, that's happening right now with the Great Resignation and people, you know, really kind of thinking about their lives. That just happened to me a few years earlier. So all of that really led to me quitting my job, figuring it out, you know, making it work. And I took some time just to really work through everything and kind of remember who I was and what I really wanted and what success meant to me and how a life could work for me better, that fit with me better and felt more like me. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. And you touched on a lot of beautiful things there because I think it's definitely a journey, but a journey worth having. And a lot of times we don't have that journey because we have to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to like the house and the bills and the, you know, the trips and the vacations and where we're going and all that kind of stuff. Right. And you're right. I think that, you know, something happens to you too internally. And I'm glad you touched on that, you know, not feeling well, not, you know, having this emotional baggage. You know, this happens a lot because we don't even notice that it's happening. We're just living this 100-mile-an-hour life. And like you said, Bobbie, you're not even internally really like that. That's not who you are. And yet this is the bubble that you created. This is the world that became, right? It's something. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and it's really interesting when you step back and look at, you know, sometimes I think if you get lucky and you do align with our culture, that's wonderful because there's so much, I think, especially for women, I'll just say, because, you know, let me take a step back. Really in my work, just to kind of showcase this, there's 2 things I talk about, like essential self, like who you were when you came into the world, right? Like your temperament, all the things we just talked about. And then your conditioned self. And that, I don't mean that to sound negative. It's just everything you learn, right? Like based on the family that you come from, the culture that you come from, you learn sort of values and what's right and wrong and what expectations are, right? And I mean, there's also strong cultural expectations. And I think right now for women, there are these cultural expectations about like a Pinterest house, Pinterest kids, being totally selfless and exhausted all the time. You know, like the more exhausted you are, the better, right? And like not needing help, right? Not needing, like, I got it all. You know what I mean? And so it's and that's cultural. And then, like, you know, my family had a wonderful work ethic. My parents taught me that, which served me a lot, but also I didn't know how to draw a line with that. And finally, my physical body was just like, you really can't do this anymore. You know, I was just in a really bad place, to be honest. So I think that it's sort of unlearning some of those cultural, subtle, but not really expectations that I think, especially that are on women. So
did you find that to be like a really hard challenge for you to because okay, I'm going to touch back a little bit because you said when you were younger, you had taken the role yourself. You took this role yourself where you wanted to please people and be the best and work really hard. So that is a lot like me as well. I'm a workaholic. I work really hard. Everything has to be perfect. And so a lot of times I have to pull myself out of that. But I found it extremely challenging at first to realize that I don't need to do that, you know? And I'm just wondering, was that a hard transition for you to realize, you know what? I need to find what's good for me. I'm introverted. I don't have to work 17 hours a day to be perfect. You know, was that hard for you to kind of pull back and realize that you needed to change that?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. And I even had some, I really could even see this before I was trained as a coach, was that I think the hardest thing is, first of all, I just want anybody listening that feels like that, you know, is afraid to fail in any way or to kind of go outside the lines in any way, is that's how we have a primal brain that our DNA like really kind of pushes us for that. Like, you know, we have a fear-based part of our mind that is absolutely opposed to failure,
change,
you know, out of your comfort zone,
out of comfort, right?
That's how humans have survived. So first of all, that's how your kind of default is. But for me, my inner critic was so hard on me all the time, that talk track, that I literally would not try things, or I would literally work myself to death because I really didn't want to be subject to the berating I was going to get from my inner critic, like the voice in my head.
Right. Okay. From yourself. Right.
Yeah, from myself. Right. I was definitely my hardest critic. And I think that can be common too. And so, I mean, the biggest thing for me that changed is that I realized that inner critic really wasn't the real me. You know, that we all have everybody has an inner critic. It's sort of there to keep us, like I said, from failing and being judged. And it's just sort of like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's like to keep you safe.
Keep you safe. But since we're not really trained on that and we don't really learn anything about our mind, and I know you know about, right? We just start to believe that that's who we are. So I would think like, well, if I was really supposed to like try this different thing or go out, you know, take a risk, then I wouldn't have this constant talk track that I wasn't good enough. That wouldn't be happening.
Right.
When really that's just in a lot of ways the brain's default. So I've learned how to change that and work with it. You know?
Right. And when you say you've learned to change it and work with it, does it mean that it doesn't come back and try to get you, right?
Oh, every time, like before this podcast, right? It's not. It doesn't go away.
Right.
It's just that I know that it doesn't mean anything about me on a deeper level of what I'm capable of. It's just natural human fear, and there's a process. You know, a little bit of a process that I take my clients through is that really just starting to notice what it's saying. Some of the time, just to start to observe it a little bit is very powerful. Otherwise it's running the show, you know. So yeah, totally, I get it all the time, but what you can learn to do is just start to observe it instead of be completely in it, you know, and be like, is that really true? Like, I've never passed out on a podcast before. So are you really, you know, I don't think that's true.
That's so funny.
I'm not gonna You know what I mean?
Right. Wow. Yeah. That's good. That's really good. So what got you into the coaching aspect though, right? Because you could have, when you left the corporate job, I mean, you could have gone anywhere. You could have done anything you wanted to at that point, or just stayed home and take care of your kids. So what made you go to like, you know, being a coach? Because now it's pouring into others, right? So it's taking all of that and wanting to really pour into others. What made you want to do that?
Well, I learned that I was looking for something more meaningful, you know, just something that could help others more and grow me and grow them. So I actually, when I was, wanting to leave my job and just all those things I mentioned that I was carrying around and everything was so heavy, I actually hired a coach. Because my friend had. I mean, I didn't know anything about this. And then I was just blown away. It was just so transformational for me when I learned about my inner critic and how it was affecting me and how my life didn't really, I hadn't created a life that fit my personality and temperament totally. And just when I learned how much power I had internally, I was just completely all in, and it fit a lot of my values and the things I was good at. It kind of, it's where I get into flow. It's just something that I love and to do. And so then I thought, I think this is what I want to do. So it hasn't been like a fairy tale. It's been
but it's amazing. Yeah, it's great because listen, you still stepped out. Basically, really just, even though you said you were like overwhelmed and you needed to step out of that, it's also stepping out, even though you don't realize at the time, in faith of who you are, right? Because it takes a lot of courage. It might not be like, oh my gosh, she just walked out and her hair was flowing in the air as you walked out of the building.
Clients and Forbes.
Exactly. Right. I mean, you could say that. We wouldn't know if your hair was flowing in the wind and everything. Everybody was there taking pictures like paparazzi. But what I'm saying is that regardless of the fact, you went, Bobbie, from some place that was hard for you and that you were overwhelmed and you thought you were like living the life that everybody kind of thinks is the right life to live. And you had to face all of that. That doesn't take 2 seconds or you don't just do that. That is work, right? That is work. I'm glad that you also mentioned that you hired a coach because I believe in that too, Bobbie. I think every person needs a coach. I always say this, every person needs a coach and every coach needs a coach, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Because it's the internal, we think, at least I mean, I had some very real external circumstances when I wanted to make this change, which we all do. I just want to say we are all incredibly busy. We all need money for rent, mortgage. It was all real, the challenges. Right. But what I found over and over again is the main thing that stops us from living a more intentional and authentic life is really like the battle within and the courage it takes to go outside of the lines, maybe go outside of expectations and show who you are. And I just want to say that, I mean, I used to, that you can learn how to do that.
Right.
Like you can learn how to start to take small steps and build confidence. It's not just extroverted salespeople. It doesn't have to be, even if you are like me and introverted and have had a lot of self-doubt in my life and have felt like an outsider, and the inner critic can be so tough. There is a way to learn how to feel more empowered, how to feel more confident, and how to start creating things in your life. And it doesn't have to be always something big like I did, Sometimes I've had clients that just asked for some changes in their current job, started to do different things in that, started doing something outside of work that was important to them. So it's not always sometimes it is, sometimes it's multiple things. I think that's my message is this is all like learnable skills to create more confidence and a life that feels more like you.
Yeah, I love that. And I wanted to, touch on that a little bit because I know you said there's like a 4-step process. Do you mind taking us through really quickly about what your 4 pillars are, your 4 steps?
Yeah. Well, and they're pretty it's not an exact science, but the steps really include the first step is really getting back in touch with your essential self, like creating a space where you can kind of remember what are the things that light you up. Like if anything were possible, right? What would you create in your life and work? And and coming back and focusing on your temperament and focusing on the true part of you, right? The true part. And really, when people talk about a midlife crisis, I hate that term, but what starts to happen is if the essential self feels like you're not in integrity enough, it doesn't, it kind of starts to give you that nudge, like, and that's when people usually hire me, is when they just kind of, you keep getting that internal, push of, there's something off, there's something more I want,
Right.
Like, really the first step is taking time to come back to who you really are and what really lights you up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's so when you are discovering that piece of it, right? Because is that one of the pillars, or are you doing that as a combination of the 4 things that you do?
Yeah, that's just really kind of the first part of it is,
right.
And remembering who you are, because like, when's the last time, when I started doing this with a coach, it was like, I hadn't done it since a college career center, like literally 20 years since I had really thought about me, what lit me up, what, my temperament. It's crazy. So, it's that. And then it's taking the second step is realizing that there's never going to be a perfect time, that it's about taking complete accountability for where you are, and just the fact that you don't have to wait for other people to give you permission to do what you can do.
That's good.
So it's learning, working through that, right? Like learning, like, who are the people, when we say everyone, like everyone's going to think I've gone crazy, which I said a million times when I left my 6-figure job for coaching. Okay, well, really, who is that everyone? It's like probably 5 or 6 people.
Right.
Right. And figuring out, like, why is it important that they approve of this? They might have different values than you. They might see things differently than you, right?
Love that.
So it's working through that. And then I think the biggest, like, step 3 is really starting to understand the blocks holding you back. Are they, is it from what you learned as a kid, like the conditioning? Is it something like that? Is it, values you learned? Is it something that you got from our culture? Like, what are the beliefs that are keeping you stuck? Like, right? Like, learning to see what those are and really start to analyze them, because we learn, I read a study, I can't remember where, but 50% of our beliefs and values about the world and who we are in the world and what's possible are formed before the age of 5.
Right.
So a lot of what coaching is figuring out, like, what your mind's telling you, like, that it isn't possible because XYZ, and then taking it out and looking at it. It doesn't mean that what we learned as a kid was wrong. It's just like, well, we learned this 40 years ago. Do you want to still hold on to? Is it still serving you? For example, I had a client that wanted to really change her work. She wanted to kind of slightly change careers, but she knew that it would mean reaching out and having to network, which she never had to do. And we found out, like, one of the things she learned as a kid was don't ever bother people. Don't ever ask for help, which I told you is one of the big, things. And so once she saw that and kind of reframed it as, I am just reaching out to connect with people, right? I'm a relationship person. It sounds minor, but there's a huge energy shift there. It's not.
Exactly.
And once she changed that, once she figured out that was a key block, it was like she was she was calling everybody. She made that change, because we have these blocks and blind spots that we can't see on our own, because they just feel like the truth. They just feel like, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about objectively looking at it. And then step 4 is starting to take small babies, small steps in the direction of what you want, and be accountable for it. It doesn't have to be like, I quit because I was about to have a nervous breakdown. Right. So that wasn't ideal. But, usually when I'm working with my clients, we're making it a transition plan,
That's great. Yeah. No, that's really great. That's really great. And I think that, you know, more and more people are now starting to learn a little bit more about who coaches are and why they're here. Especially I think in this last maybe year to 2 years, it's been more in your face. Not everyone, because some people still don't know what a coach is. I still speak to people, what is a coach? And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. Because I'm in the world so much that I don't realize that there's still a lot of people that don't know, right? Like the same way me and you don't know a lot about another type of career, right? So, yeah, our work is important, Bobbie. I like what you're doing. I like the way I really like your energy, and I like the way you're like helping people find their authentic self that way, because you know a lot of times as coaches, we're going to deal with, you know, what's on your mind, what's your block and your mindset. But I love that you talk about who you are intuitively, like who are you? And let's figure that out. That's really, really neat. I love that angle you have. I think it's a great way to connect people back to who they authentically are. And a lot of times we don't know who that is.
It's true. It's really, really true. And once you kind of get back to that, it's so much clearer. Or maybe you're thinking of doing something, like you're thinking of doing something, but you're like, that's crazy. Like I want to you know, write a cookbook. That's crazy. But then if you go back and kind of examine like what's important to you, you know, it almost always fits, right?
Yeah.
Like the things that you really want to do. In fact, there is a temperament test. I have no connection to this. I have no monetary. It just was something. It took 10 minutes, and I think your viewers would really benefit from it. There's a free 10-minute test. Can I tell them what it is? Because it was like,
please tell them what it is. Please.
And like I said, I have no connection to this company, but I wrote it down.
Write it down too. Go ahead.
It's called Keirsey.com. So it's KEIRSEY.com. And there's a 5 or 10 minute free test you can take, and it's mirrored off the Myers-Briggs, but they look at it a little more like temperament, and they talk about like different careers and different like what you're kind of naturally.
Oh, that's neat.
And it was like 10 minutes, and I could see people in my life like how they felt, and it was like amazing. So I just want to pass that on in case anybody's like, oh, I really want to. I don't really know where to start. That is a free 10-minute great place to start.
Yeah, because a lot of times we don't. And this is what I'm finding too, is a lot of people are not lined up to what they should be doing. What they're doing and their temperaments are two totally different things. And that's why they're conflicted. You know, they're hitting this wall all the time.
Everything's hard. Yeah. If you're not doing that, then everything's hard and everything takes more energy. And it's kind of this, you can go for so long, like I did, you know, and then, that's what is with me.
And then what happens, right, Bobbie?
My body's like, you're done.
Yeah, that's great though, because I'm sure that you're feeling more like you're walking in what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's satisfying, isn't it?
Yes. I heard a quote, and I wish I could, I'm so sorry I don't have the person, but he said, success to me is loving what I do, knowing it's helping someone.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
I know.
Yeah, that's really a good one. You got to tape that up on your computer or something.
Yeah, I know.
But Bobbie, before I let you go, I would love for my audience to know where to find you. I saw your website. It's very nicely done. So give us, you know, like all of your info of where you want people to, you know, see your content, reach out to you if they would like to have you as a coach, things like that. So give us all your handles.
I appreciate that. My website is probably the best place to start. It's www.bobbiecaskey.com. And I have blogs. I have a lot of writing on there. I have my story. And there's even, you can request a complimentary hour with me. You just answer some questions. And I do give complimentary time to people I think I can really help. And sometimes just that hour makes a difference for them.
Yeah.
So
it makes a difference for them. And I think it's a smart thing to do as a coach too, because you want to make sure you're working with the right people. You know, you want to make sure that you're good for them and that they are going to be getting something out of it also. Right. So,
and if you're like me, I had no earthly idea what a coach was.
Right. I didn't either until I got into coaching a couple of years ago. I didn't either. So yeah. So this has really been great. Thank you for spending some time here with us here at Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
And thank you for all you do and for creating a forum for authenticity.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why it's no sugar added, woman.
No sugar. I didn't bring any.
Thank you so much, Bobbie. And guys, thank you so much for being here with us. As you guys know, I will link all of Bobbie's information below so that you can click and follow. And please do reach out to her if you want her to be your coach. And just even for the 1 free hour of complimentary, because you never know the connection and what she can bring out of you that will help discover something new in you, maybe cause a shift, maybe break down a blockage that you have going on. So please make sure that you do that. Also, don't forget to share, like, subscribe with this platform, because we are trying to grow this community to make sure that we challenge and transform the way you think so that you can move forward to what you want to do in life. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Winject Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.